Hey everyone, I want to do another quick shout out to our sponsor, Codemagic. Do you want to speed up the development of your Flutter app and release much more frequently? Try out Codemagic. It's a CI/CD designed specifically for Flutter developers. Codemagic helps you to automate building, testing, and publishing your apps to all the different stores. It's easy to set up, has extensive docs, and gives you complete control over the build machine. Also, Codemagic offers 500 free build minutes per month with their blazing fast M1 Mac build machines. See more at flutterci.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of Flying High with Flutter. I'm your host, Alan Wyma. Today I'm with Roaa. Hopefully I said that correctly.
Yeah.
She is as we were talking before the show, she's just a Flutter developer, no big deal, just like one of us. But some people may think that she's the proclaimed queen of animations. As you can see, she's very boastful of her title.
Yeah, very.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. Looks like your fan Vladimir says hello. I'm just scanning the chat as we're talking.
Nice. Hello, Vladimir.
So like I said, we have people. Oh, somebody said hello. HELLU. Wow.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, very flavorful. Hello there. So lots of people coming in on the live stream.
Nice. Bring your friends. Bring everyone.
Bring your friends. So one of the users just asked us, would this tutorial be good for beginners? This is not a tutorial. This is just your chance to get to know who is Roaa. And if you have any questions for her, we can definitely help to ask for you. Otherwise, I'll just be interviewing her all about all of the contributions she's been doing. Somebody from India is saying namaste.
Namaste.
You have to do this back. That's what I see on TV. Yeah. Just lots of hellos coming in. I guess everybody wants to say hello to you. You're a superstar.
Thank you.
Where did you come from? Right? Are you like from the gods or what? Because I feel like you have a lot of followers. You have a lot of people looking for you.
I'm very grateful. Like I come from Earth, of course. I come from Syria, and I've been in Turkey for 10 years. But I started contributing to the Twitter Flutter community a year ago, and since then I reached 11,000 followers, which is wow, surprising, and I'm very grateful for that.
So what is the secret sauce? Are you like handing out like $1 for every follower or something, or what?
I really don't know. Like if I've mentioned I'm really grateful, and sometimes I get surprised by the amount of response and interaction I get, and it feels very rewarding and sometimes addictive because I always want to like share and get those likes and follows. But it comes down to doing quality content, I think. And I've noticed that when you share stuff that's like purely theoretical and technical, you don't get as much response as when you share like animated and visually very creative stuff. So I think that would be the secret sauce, but I'm not sure.
Well, I guess people are really attracted to animations, right? I mean, maybe we should kind of step back a little bit, right? Because you say you're from Earth. We're going to try to figure out if this is true.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're living in Turkey, but you're from Syria. I'm not very familiar with that part of the world. I'm guessing they're relatively close. Are they bordering each other, those two countries? I apologize for my poor geography.
If you know Lebanon, it's also bordering Lebanon and like in the Middle East. It's not very far away, and I had to like flee because of war 10 years ago. And yep, I'm also Turkish, so I have a dual life. So came for studying also, and studied electrical engineering, which is something weird compared to programming, but eventually ended up using Flutter and creating stuff with Flutter, which was pretty cool.
Now, you may think it's weird, but I find a lot of what I always heard was called double E, electrical engineer, do a lot of programming. They think they like hardware, but then they get to the programming part and they like that part more for some weird reason.
Yeah. It's once you start, it's all physics and microprocessors and all this like telecommunication and statistics, all of this stuff. You learn C and C sharp or like C++, but nothing related to web or like anything that's famous, let's say, in the programming world. So you have to like dig into it yourself to be able to continue after that major. So yeah.
Now, what made you want to get into computers, right? Because typical, I mean, I don't mean to sound sexist, right? But most girls don't really go into computers. Although I know it's becoming more hot, and I remember that I did see a lot of articles saying that most computer programmers in the beginning were actually female. What got you into it? I mean, because you don't hear a lot these days, right?
I think the first HTML page that I created, I was about 9 years old or something. It all come down to my parents owning like a computer hardware and as well as computer courses place school or something. So I was always the little girl sneaking into computer courses and internet courses and learning. And I got interested from there, and then did some PHP course when I was like in 2010 or something. So
I'm
it's
so
always
sorry.
been computers
I'm so
for me.
sorry about the PHP course.
Yeah. No, I love it. I ended up actually like while I was doing Flutter, I was simultaneously working with PHP and Laravel sometimes to do backend. So PHP alone, I totally get you, but like with Laravel, it's amazing. So
Laravel is like maybe like chocolate, right? It can make almost anything taste better.
exactly.
Yeah, Laravel's doing some exciting stuff. I think they have some. Oh, what is it? Somebody was talking to me about like they have like a way that you can easily assemble like packages together or a starter template that they have now for Laravel.
There's a whole bunch of things. Like
Yeah,
you can get started with an API with authentication setup and the dashboard that's ready to use and with all the CRUD operations and all that stuff. So it's very accessible to developers, I think.
yeah. I think I did one Laravel application, or was it Codeigniter? I think I done one of both, and those are two frameworks that I would rather use than straight, like you said, straight PHP. Forget about it. You can never trust it. Yeah, those are okay, not too bad. Yeah, straight PHP. Oh my god, it's like drive you crazy. I always find it weird that the creator of PHP is like, nope, I don't even want to be associated with this no more. It's like a crazy language. There's all kinds of weirdness to it, but it's the history. And
Yep.
anyways, PHP is still useful, right? I mean, Facebook still uses it, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's still interesting. Still a good language. Still a popular language. Okay, so you're sneaking in, you're learning the stuff, getting into PHP.
HTML, CSS, all that stuff.
Of course, yes. And then where what was next in your journey until you finally got to Flutter? How'd you get to there?
So, like after college, after graduating university, I did a web based. I used Electron for my graduation project. I created a smart mirror with like pretending that it's something related to electrical engineering by focusing on the hardware in the presentation. But later, I managed to submit that project, and from then on, I continued with web development and specifically like SVG animations and I mean, that's the topic of how I got into animations. But to return to how I got into Flutter, like a friend approached me and convinced me to use it, and then we ended up co-founding an agency that like created Flutter applications for clients, and I worked there for like 2 years, and that's how I started with Flutter. I started doing client projects using Flutter. So I learned by creating client projects, which was risky for the first couple of clients, but it was like the ease of Flutter itself and how the learning curve is not steep, so you can immediately start creating apps.
So, well, there's many branches off this
Yeah.
topic you just brought up, but I want to go back to the animation SVG part, right?
Yep.
So people who don't know, SVG is a text format or something. It's basically all vectors, which are just straight lines. It's all math based, right? So I do know that you can actually animate SVGs by just changing those numbers, right? So you figured out how to do that probably with JavaScript, I'm guessing.
Nope. I like sometimes I use JavaScript, but pure CSS otherwise.
Oh, yes, you can do it that way.
You can like create a style tag and put it inside the SVG file and do all the animations you want. And yeah.
Okay. Now, what kind of animations are you talking about when you're saying animations?
Like vector based generally, and whatever you see in websites like headers, banners, and whenever you see vectors moving around, that's an SVG animation. So I mostly did it as freelance work for clients. So clients would say, I have this website, I have this graphic that I want animated. And at the same time, I sometimes designed the animation because I also design sometimes. So
Okay, because I know. I mean, if you're talking about CSS, right, you have a lot of things. There's a lot of animations you can do with CSS itself, right? Especially nowadays with CSS 3, you have like I don't even know transforms and all this other kind of stuff, right?
yeah, it's a very broad, like possibilities are really endless. So yeah, if you want to, and sometimes like there are now tools that make it easier to do this, but like I prefer to work with one SVG file and do the complex, very complex work that other tools would do it for me in a couple of minutes. But I always preferred the long way.
How did you actually learn how to do all this stuff? You just did some searching online about how to make this, and it was SVGs, and you just kind of got into that.
Yep. Well, when I first started, also like did some motion graphics with After Effects,
Mm.
designed stuff in Illustrator, and then animated them in After Effects. And After Effects led me to Lottie, and Lottie led me to figuring out that I can actually do all of that purely with code. And what encourages me to do this stuff, or like motivates me, is having to do code, like to program, and at the same time have some visual output to the things that I'm coding. This is like the sweet spot between designing and programming. So that's what motivates me to do animations eventually, like in Flutter. So
Okay, so that's how you got into animations, right? Now, going from there to Flutter. Now, because you were so attracted to animations, did you immediately start getting into how you can animate things, or was that kind of an afterthought as time went on?
uh, well, before Flutter I worked with React a lot. So like the transition from web to Flutter happened due to React to Flutter, not the animation part. And later on, I discovered that it's very easy to do animations with Flutter. Not very easy, like the simple ones, like the anything that could get like a creative UI set up quickly is really easy and simple with Flutter, and you can complicate things and go wild with it. But the starting point is always very easy, which what attracted me to animations in Flutter. But before that, I like as I've mentioned, I started for client projects, and they didn't involve animations at all.
Now, when did you start looking at animations? Was this in your free time, or was it for a client project? Because I feel like you're client project focused kind of person. Like, okay, I got to learn this for this one, so I'm going to learn it.
Yeah, you're right. It was something like on the side, or maybe sharing on Twitter and realizing that visual things get more traction and get more interaction and like pull people into Flutter, let's say. Also, like encouraged me to go more into animations, and design challenges, like animation challenges, also made me want to like explore that. And when I see a challenge, I have to solve it. It's not very healthy, but I just have to. So that also helped in getting deeper into animations.
Now, how did you start learning these things, right? I mean, I guess with all the animations you did prior in your career, is you just used that as a base and then figured out how to make it happen within Flutter.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like you were already doing a lot of animations with SVG, which I think is probably more difficult than doing it with Flutter because with Flutter
Yeah.
you have a lot of, uh, I think it's called implicit animations, right? Where
Yeah.
you can just change the size of a container and it would animate it. I mean, doing it with, like I said, doing it the with SVG is much more complicated.
Yeah.
So, did you just take the information that you learned when you learned with SVGs and After Effects, etc., and then apply that thought process to Flutter, and it was just
Yeah.
figuring out how to do that, and then it kind of works.
Yep, exactly. Because, like, I mean, in animations, there is always like whatever technology you're working with, whatever language, whatever programming language, there is always common like thought process, as you mentioned. it's you have to move something from point A to point B. You have to discover to think about how it started, how it's going to end. You have to think about the cycle of the animation. All of this stuff is applicable for all technologies. And once I got used to it in like different technologies, like from After Effects with no code and SVG with a lot of code in CSS, I kind of like had a practice with this thought process. And when I applied it to Flutter, it was I had a head start technically. So, and it was very useful.
Now, what was one of the first animations that you did that you were like, "Wow, this is really cool," and I like this when it comes to Flutter?
I think the first challenge that someone mentioned me and said, "I wonder," or no one mentioned me first. They just like someone did an animation in Swift, and all the comments were most of them were, "I wonder if this is possible with Flutter. I wonder if this can be done with Flutter." And reading this, I get the urge to prove them that it can be done. So at the end, I was able to like achieve it after like about 12 hours and staying up until 7 a.m. and sharing it. That was an animation that I was proud of. I can get you the link.
Yeah, what is the animation? I'm just kind of curious if you can describe it.
The toolbar thing. Um, I have it on my GitHub profile in the README. So it's just a toolbar that when you move your finger on it, the items get larger and display text. And when you move around, they change in size. And also scrolling has some effect by making all the items slide in from small size to bigger size. So that was something that involved a lot of animation widgets and a lot of animation controllers. So it was fun to do, and also I was very proud of the result.
Why did it take you 12 hours to do? Was it really a very complicated thing, or was it just like took you some time to figure out how to do it within Flutter? It's complicated. Itself is complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Okay. But you knew what you were like. Did you have to go through several revisions to get this done? Or was it just like, okay, I know this and it just takes time to code it all out?
I mean, I always like what I do is I like start a repo and then depend on commits to save me, because sometimes I delete everything and start from scratch. And if I need to find out something I did in a previous iteration of the animation, I go to commits and see what I did there and copy and paste. So it's a whole lot of process of doing things over and over again until it works. And sometimes I have a clear vision of how they are going to work. So sometimes I don't need to redo them all over again, but the implementation itself would be complicated, so it would take time to perfect. And the most things that take time to perfect are the tiny details in the animation. Having like finding that, for example, the animation curve was different in the original implementation, and if you don't do that, the animation would not look that good, because sometimes animation curves like make or break the animation because they really matter. And yeah, that's I hope I answered your question. I don't remember it anymore.
Yeah, I think I was just kind of curious about what took so long and
Yeah, yeah.
like what's the process, right? I mean, I guess you kind of do things step by step, like most people, right? Try to take it apart.
First thing I try to do, like this, I learned not in the first challenge that I did, but in the later ones. The first thing I do is proof of concept that this is possible. So I do like a very skeletony and very like pure red and blue squares of something, and just make sure that this is going to be possible, and then build upon it. Because if I focus on the tiny details first and then the main animation is not possible, then I would have wasted a lot of time. So this is something I learned to do as I did more and more challenges.
Like we talked about before, you really got get into animation based on client work. And then after some time, I suppose then you have like a good base. And then you're just kind of, whenever you see a challenge, you're like, I could do this. And 12 hours later, sleepless night, you finally have it done, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the process.
yeah, more or less. I mean, the last one I did, I had to like divide this 12 hours into multiple nights because I have a day job now, and I have to like do it in the evening, and then I have to like distribute those 12 hours into multiple days.
So when do you decide to call it quits? Because I don't know, I guess you and I are similar where it's like, no, I know I can do this just a little bit longer. And you're like, oh my God, it's like 8 hours later than what I thought.
Yeah, I can't call it quits. I that's a very complicated question because most times I fail to quit and call it a day. And I shared a tweet yesterday that writing Dynal Fubble or something, that messing up the coding when as you write is a sign that your brain has to like your brain gave up and you have to like sign off, and that's probably where I say no, I have to close off for the day. And most times when I hit like a block in the animation that I'm creating, I know that if I sleep on it and continue the next day, I would find a solution, because sometimes you need a clear mind to reset and restart. So that would also be a sign to stop.
Yeah, we had some of your fans over here who were saying that you need to get more sleep. So people are concerned about you.
No, it's okay. I'm getting a lot of sleep actually. It's just very distributed and not even.
Now, you're talking about your day job, right? Uh, you're working over at Widgetbook, which we talked to a couple weeks ago, right? What was that process? Was it just said, "Hey, I saw your animation video. Do you want to come add animations to our app?" Or kind of what was the process that you guys started working together?
No, it's not related to animation actually. Although I think, of course, it contributed to me being like active on Twitter, and then like it's a series of events that led to this. It started with a tweet, and then like doing online events, and then doing Flutter Vikings, applying to it and going there, which is where I met Lucas from Widgetbook. And after that, they were looking to hire engineers, and like from word of mouth, and they like we got to do interviews and get started together. That's the whole process. So it's I needed a job. I was working freelancing, and I wanted to like work with a company. So, and what better choice than Widgetbook? They were like, the team is amazing. The product itself being open source and something that aims to help Flutter developers and make their life and development cycle easier, and also like bridge the gap between developers and designers, which was also interesting to me because I also design and I understand that there's such a gap, and like the whole prospect of Widgetbook was very fitting to me. So
Okay, how long have you been working there for?
it's been a month and 10 days.
And you feel this is a place that you can stay at for a while?
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, all your fans are maybe a little bit disappointed if you're not working on animations every day. Are you doing any animations while working on Widgetbook?
Yeah, I get to sometimes I do some UI work, and I get to do some animations here and there. But I also like, I mean, I think if animations were my job or like something that I have to do, and then I wouldn't do them as good, because the catchy thing about it is that it's what I do to recharge, or like it's what I do for fun. So I think that's what allows me to maybe be creative with it and do good stuff. So I wouldn't change that.
One of your audience member asked a question. Besides articles, do you have any video tutorials for animations in Flutter for beginners?
Um, I don't at the moment. I like you can watch my talks. I think I have a Flutter Viking talk video. It's still coming up soon. The recording wasn't so good, and I did a Flutter festival for India, I think, where I talked about animations. I can pull that up from somewhere. Other than that, no, I unfortunately have no video content, but I have a goal of going there and then starting to start a YouTube channel and all that stuff. That's something that's definitely in my future.
When do you plan to start that? I mean, it's does take some time, but it's not so much time.
Yeah, I mean, I have very noisy neighbors, so that's probably not useful for YouTube videos. So I have to figure out how to like get the stuff, get the equipment, and like good microphone, good camera, and all that stuff. So it's gonna take some time.
Now, your articles, are you just write these all up on your website, and or where do you kind of put your articles so people can find them?
Medium, only Medium right now. Like I have links to all the articles on my GitHub profile. I have a link to my GitHub on my Twitter account. So right now I don't have a website separately, although I would do that in the near future to have a, like a central place. But I think Medium is quite good. No.
The one thing I don't like about Medium is that they force you to pay, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna read it then. I don't feel like paying for this kind of stuff. Maybe I'm too cheap or something, but I just feel annoyed by the paywall. Um, we do have our friendly troll, Mangurtus, who asked a question.
Okay.
He says, "You think you're so good at animations?" Well, he actually says, "So you are good at animations?" Question mark.
Uh,
Name every animated Flutter widget.
okay. Let's see. Animated container, animated position. No, I'm kidding. If I can do that. By the way, if I want to, but I don't want to. But yeah.
Okay, challenge accepted and confirmed and completed, I guess.
I'm I think I'm good. Yeah, but I can always be better. So there's no there's no end to this. It's always like there's always better. So
The goddess doesn't need to stoop down to this peon's level and let him know all this stuff. Look it up in the docs. You're not the doc, right? You're just you have other things to do.
it's okay. It's manga.
Nimesh, yeah, is kind of talking a little bit back. He said he's been looking forward to your talk. He says he's been checking the Flutter Vikings playlist every week and waiting for
Um,
your talk still since the end of September.
it's coming soon, very soon.
And Mangurtus is just giving me a good idea. Pro tip: Medium is free if you read it in incognito. You know what, Mangurtus? You're a smart guy, smarter than me. I forgot about that.
Wow, I don't even know about it. And you know, I sign up for it for a year, and I forget the fact that you have to pay, and that's something like you reminded me that people might not be able to read my articles because of this. So this is a further encouragement to create my own website to make it like fully free.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just make your articles free or something because I'm not sure how Medium works because I thought it was just that you could just post and then they're just free and then up to you if you want to ask for money.
No, they're not. I don't think you choose. I might not know it, but I didn't find such a choice to like pick if it's paid or free.
Wow, I'm even more upset with if Medium if that's really the way it works. I'm a little bit sad to hear about that. You know, actually, it's funny. We have a lot of previous guests and one upcoming guest, I believe, on here who's coming to the show. I told you you're a superstar, right? Um, they're asking, what was your favorite animation challenge so far?
Okay, I have to say the calculator one at the end. It didn't get like the 4,000 likes that the Flutter Vikings animation got, but I got quoted by Eric Seidel, and that's enough for me. I mean, it's yeah, that's my favorite because of this, and like because it's proving something that is the least expected thing that you can do in Flutter, and it proves that you can do it in like in whichever way it was a tricky way to do it or not. It still was able to like Flutter still was able to achieve this. So that's why it's my favorite.
Okay, so that was actually a calculator. Okay, I did remember seeing the number pad, and I thought, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a number pad or calculator. I don't know why I
Yeah, I
call it
see the
that.
plus and minus, so yeah, you could say calculator.
The number pad also has a plus and minus. But
Oh yeah, it does. Okay, well, it doesn't actually calculate, I think, but it does look pretty
yeah,
cool.
no, number pad might be a better name actually. But I mean, I named the repo and it's too late.
That's really awesome. How do you make it? Oh, you turn it 3D. Okay.
I can talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. Do you mind to talk about some of the big pieces of it? So, like, initially it starts off as 2D, right? And you can just press the keys down. So that seems pretty simple, right? You're just making it smaller
Yep.
when you press on the keys, right?
Actually, there's nothing 3D in effect. Like it's not even. like for the rules of 3D, it's not 3D, it's isometric, because with 3D you have like when you go further, the let's say it would get smaller, but this is uniform square. So this is actually scaled down only on the x-axis and rotated 90 degrees to look that it's 3D. And the edge of the number pad, let's say the body of it, has a very weird shape that has like two rectangles offsetted on the XY axis. And when you rotate, they just get behind each other. So it's an illusion. Everything is an illusion achieved by custom painter and gradients.
Okay, first of all, there's a button that says 3D. Okay, I'm going off of the button over here, and then you're correcting me that it's isometric. That's number one. Number two, you ruined all of the magic of this. I thought this was actually 3D.
No,
Now I feel I've been cheated.
it's. I mean, the point is to like cheat people to create something that looks like 3D, but it's not, because like eventually it's not possible to do anything 3D in Flutter. And you can like do squares and make the transform look like they are a cube. Like if you have like three squares and attach them to each other as cubes. And the thing that makes them appear as cubes is the perspective value of the transform matrix, which also is behind the scenes, also just scales down, doesn't do anything 3D. So there's nothing 3D in Flutter. However, I think the Flutter team is working on something that would make it 3D. Someone shared recently, not someone, Joachim, who works with shaders, does a lot of like things with Flame and a lot of crazy things. Shared the README for an impeller implementation that does 3D work, which is something in progress. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. And yeah, hopefully one day we will do real 3D. But for now, it's an illusion.
Yeah, it's a lie. It's what it is. It's a lie.
Not a lie. It's a good lie.
It's a good lie now. No, this is pretty cool. Like I just shared this with somebody. I thought this is pretty cool. That maybe it'd be nice to kind of show the people some advanced stuff. It's pretty nice. So somebody also asked, have you ever thought about making a package out of your animations or something like that?
I did a lot, and there's one in progress. Like the previous challenge was a card swiper. When you swipe the card up, it rotates and goes to the back of the stack. So I was working on making this a package to be able to use it in all apps. And I actually set up all the package files, and everything is ready just to publish, and it's tested and all of that. I just couldn't find time to publish it and like finalize it. Otherwise, there are a lot of things that could be turned into packages, but I don't know. I need to consider this more often.
I guess it kind of supply demand, right? If nobody really tells you that they want something as a package, then it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. I mean, you do it, you share the GitHub repo, and it gets some traction, and then everyone forgets about it. So eventually it's not necessary. So
well, the tricky part is like, yeah, there's always cool animations that you want to do because they're cool, but do they actually match the brand of the app that you're making? That's the problem.
yeah. And not only that, like some of the challenges are things that are not usable. Like there's no user experience or any application niche that would work with this animations. So it's just visual, something that you can see, wow, it looks great, but then if you want to use it, there's no usage for it. So these kinds of animations are the ones that don't matter. So the card swiper thing was the most usable one, maybe the one before it also with the toolbar. But other than that, like there are things that you can't use. So
I think if I look at the latest video you have on your Twitter, I think that one is really cool and actually useful. Is that what the one you're talking about that you're making to a package?
no, that's the Flutter Viking stock animation.
That one could be a nice package.
It won't need. I mean, It's because like the animation there is very simple because I'm just doing an animation controller using it for like running an animation when the list item comes into view, which is something already done by Flutter. Like when the list item comes into view, it gets built. And on init state, I'm calling the animation for controller forward method, and that's achieving everything. So I'm not very sure how that could be a package. So yeah.
To me, it's all complicated. I
Yeah.
luckily don't have to add a lot of animations to apps, but I'd want to. But you have to, like we talked about, it has to actually make sense
Yeah.
for that app.
And there are a lot of packages that make that very easy to.
Well, I mean, besides the default widgets, right? We talk about like there's implicit animation widgets within Flutter. Now, what animation packages do you recommend people take a look at if they're curious about adding more complicated animations to their app, but not have to do it by hand necessarily?
Okay, so the most personally, I never used a package for animations, but I do recommend packages for someone who would like to like set them up quickly and don't have to like think about the complexities of the animation widgets. That I mean, implicit animations are very simple, but like when you want to do something complex, you can always go straight to packages. And the most like the famous one that came up recently, the Flutter Animate by G Skinner. That's a very good package. And there is also, I mean, if you use that, I don't think you would need any other package because it does stuff very intuitively and like declaratively. You can say when this animation is going to start and do all the things that you would normally need a lot of code to implement. And the most times that I found out of the box Flutter animations limiting is when you want to sequence a lot of animations and make them like have a sequence of animations that are different. This is where you can use packages also. You can utilize them, and yep, there's also there's an animation package. I don't remember. But I mean, if you use the Flutter Animate, I don't think you would need another one.
Yeah, there's an animation. Oh, this is animation library. This looks familiar. I think this was pushed by the material team when I talked to them sometime last year, the year before, because it looks very familiar.
The animations package?
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but this is kind of what I remember right now because this is made by Flutter.dev, it says. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is from, say, yeah, Material Motion for Flutter.
Mhm.
This is based on Material Motion System spec, so that's why I think this is probably from Material Design team. They kind of just said that you should do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody else is saying that the G Skinner animations package is really good. Yeah, I didn't think I even knew about this one. That's pretty cool. Both these
Yeah,
are pretty
yeah. They
nice
have
looking.
an app. It's called Wonders, I think, that you can download on the store. It's very pretty and very. It's animated using the same package. So they created the package, I think, because they needed that for this app, and these things happened like simultaneously. So,
Okay.
yeah. So if you need animation inspiration for everyone listening, you can also see the Wonders app.
Is there is there an animation challenge that you're taking right now?
There is one I've been like doing for a couple of minutes a day to see if it can work, and I might share it soon. Other than that, I'm also working on an article for the number pad slash calculator thing to like
Slash non 3D
yeah
isometric saying it's 3D.
yeah that thing. So I'm also working on an article that would explain the method because it could be applied to a lot of things and it can be used to do more lies.
More lies, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I like more lies. It's good. So when do you think you can finish that? All these updates.
I mean, it could be a week, it could be a month. I don't know. My
It
my
depends.
yeah, it depends. I will have something this weekend. I mean, you can always expect something on a weekend because weekends are for animations and side projects.
I thought weekends are for yourself to rest, but weekends are for animations for you.
Yeah, that's how I rest actually. So, I,
Is it refreshing for you? Not frustrating?
no, not at all. I mean, I like mostly I do one day like a Saturday to work and Sunday to rest sometimes. So no worries about that. But yeah,
Somebody said that they remember the tweet for the article, me writing at 2 a.m.
yeah, that's not an article. That's something I am going to announce soon. Not yet.
Oh, this is something upcoming then.
Yep.
So you cannot announce it here for everybody?
Nope.
Oh, so sad. Yeah, I mean, do you feel like you've exhausted everything you can about animations, or or do you feel that you still want to keep going?
Never. I don't think there's any situation where I can think, yeah, that's it. That's all Flutter can do, or that's all what animations can do. I don't think there would ever be a situation like this. And specifically, what I want to get into now, what I wish to get into is shaders and like more and more stuff with custom painter, because like doing stuff with animated widgets, implicit or explicit, is only like using the high level widgets. And when you gonna like dive deeper and directly use painting and drawing, and which is where custom painter and shaders come in, that would like open up a whole lot of possibilities. So yeah.
Somebody asked, how long did you do all the paperwork before coding the calculator? I guess maybe how long did you plan everything out before you start coding it?
I don't think I planned upfront. I do like I shared the image of me writing something mathematical on papers, but this like happens as I code. I like go back and forth because I like tackle this one step at a time. So the first thing that I wanted to make sure is possible is having the 3D key, or like 3D key with
The
air.
isometric key. Let's not be.
Yeah. So what I did there is like figure out how it's going to work and draw some stuff and make sure I understood how the drawing in custom painter works, because you have to like start at some point and then tell it to move to somewhere and then arc to somewhere, which requires some not scientific, mathematical trigonometry and all that stuff. So this is what I tried to figure out first, and then yeah, it goes simultaneously, the planning and the coding.
So if we wanted to get deeper into animations, right, we definitely need to study some specific math. It sounds like trigonometry is the math that we should be paying attention to in class.
Yeah, yeah. I regret not like uh, memorizing stuff or something, because yeah, you have to. I mean, you might not need to like understand it very perfectly, but you will need it, especially for drawing. But also there are tools that there's like a Flutter shape creator or something that you give it a vector, or like you draw on it and it generates the custom painter code for you. So even that you don't have to do unless you have a very custom objective. So there are always tools that will help you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like when I study these math, you're like, I would never need to use this. Did you feel the same when you're studying trigonometry and then you went to doing this and you're like, oh, I wish I'd paid more attention?
Yeah, and like with SVG previously, I needed that more because there aren't a lot of tools as there are in Flutter. So that was a case where I needed more math than now. So yeah, I wish but I was also a good student, so I did pay attention to math, and I was like, to some point, not that much, but yeah, it also helps.
Yeah, I know. This is something I also want to take a look at because I'm curious to get into 3D animations and things like that. So I know I have to get into the stuff eventually. We had one previous guest who he did a MacBook keyboard. It was, I don't know, the same idea as you. Didn't do the isomorphic one, but it's pretty cool. He said basically the saving grace of how he got everything done was that he had Khan Academy to relearn all the stuff he learned 10 years ago in school, then just forgot about it because
Yeah,
you never use it, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think most people never use the stuff that we learned in school, that kind of math, until you're doing this kind of craziness. Cool. Yeah, I appreciate you taking time to talk about animations, right? You're the person for all about animations, and I'm happy that I learned how to escape the paywall of Medium. So that was my number one thing I got, so I can read more of your articles now.
Thank you, Mangerda.
Yeah, thanks. You saved us all better than Khan Academy. Uh, cool. Is there any? I mean, it sounds like you have. Let's say, is there anything you wanted to say? But I think you have something going to come out soon, right? That's what you're just saying you didn't want to talk about.
I'm working on a lot of stuff, and yeah, I hope to like for this weekend. I want to focus on doing the article for the number pad, and yeah, expect. I mean, I'm always ready for a mention by someone. Like when I'm always like summoned to a challenge when someone mentions me on something that is very cool, implemented in Swift or something else, and they just mention me. At this point, no one ever says like, "Can you do it?" It's just a mention for me, and I really love that. So I'm always ready for such a challenge. So yeah,
So you guys heard this, right? Come up with the craziest, most difficult challenge and challenge her, and she cannot say no.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I challenge you to make a Rio 3D calculator.
Once impeller is implemented.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate you, like I said, coming out to talk about animations. I learned a lot. I learned the math is trigonometry, so I'll have to maybe pop it open someday when I finish up the other things I'm working on. I have a couple of these libraries stuff that you pointed out to me, the Flutter Animate. I don't think I've seen the Wondrous one yet, so I plugged that one up. Take a look at it. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted people to know before we say goodbye?
I mean, the thing you said about math, you don't really have to learn it to be able to get into animations. That's the beauty about Flutter animations. So, not to scare anyone, just like jump right into it. And a general advice I always like to say is, you have to practice a lot, create like stupid things in animations, and practice just the code and how it's implemented, which will then give you like when once you learn that, you can then start thinking about the animation itself without worrying about how to implement it in code, which is what practice does. So that's a general advice I always like to give.
Okay, so you heard this right. Don't study math. Forget about it. Just use Flutter Animate package.
No. I mean, you can if you don't want to learn the animations themselves, like or dive deeper into them. But I mean, there's always packages, and it's always useful to know how things came up to be into packages. Like it's always useful to know the source of things to have to debug to be able to have a better understanding, because following stuff that covers what's the core of Flutter uh, is good if it makes life easier for you. But if you want to know more, you have to know how it started.
Okay, so in short, if you want to get into animations, you can do it without a solid math background. But if you want to get to really complicated animations and really understand how all this stuff works, trigonometry is the one to do. So don't throw away your math books. Is that right?
Yep. I mean, it's trigonometry as well as the code itself that Flutter does, like the explicit animations and all that stuff.
And watch your talks, right?
Yep. And I have a comprehensive guide for Flutter animations that explains all that stuff, like all the implicit and explicit, and how you can start and practice from there. So that would be helpful to read if you want.
Where
So
do we find? Where can we find this guide?
it's on my Medium profile.
Okay, so turn on your incognito browser and go to your Medium.
Yeah. Unless it's the beginning of the month and you didn't hit your limit yet, which you can do freely.
Well, the blue hearts are coming out. That means everybody's falling in love with your input to the community.
Thank you, everyone.
Somebody was saying the best part of the animation is to create it from scratch, imagining everything.
That's my thing. That's what I like. That's why I don't use packages a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree.
And you have lots of time to spend on this. I wish I had as much time as you.
Yeah, very much. I'm always free.
I can give you something to do if you're bored. I can use some help.
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate your time, and I hope we can have you back on again soon. There we go.
Yep. Yep. Thank you very much for having me.